hit the notification bell. I'm Rob. This is a news commentary live stream that happens every weekday. Weekdays still being Monday through Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At some point, America's going to catch on with the workers' productivity, and weekdays will just be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the weekend will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Until that day, actually beyond that day, I'll still do Monday through Friday. So I'm here live to you from the most beautiful state in the country, Massachusetts. Massachusetts, where we got weird shaped houses. That's why country couldn't come from Massachusetts. Even though there's a lot of tractors and trucks, the houses keep things unique. I should have taken a picture of the house. There's this house in Lynn that is the most Boston house I've ever seen. It's painted Kelly green. It's like shaped like a clover in the midst of these avenues. But what's up, Kathy? I was just talking about Massachusetts, the most beautiful state, not only the country, but I'd say the world. Showing my masshole bias. What's up, Solus? Good to see you, man. We're going to talk about the Dystopian Nightmare Fuel that is your DNA being sold. Fire sale. Being pawned. Let's say it's being pawned. Language is important, folks. You just woke up. Good for you, my man. Language is extremely important. And when you read these mainstream outlet articles, which I usually like to gather and collect, good for you, either way. I like to collect my news from Reddit. I'll be honest, Twitter, when it used to be called Twitter, before that maroon took it over and lost 100% of its value, and it just became like a racist porn bot site. I used to collect my news from there because it was great. If something was trending, like at that moment, you could rely that that was what was happening. That was the pulse of the news entertainment industry. Oh, that's a sick Mercedes that lady's driving. I will have a Mercedes one day. But now I go to Reddit, and even Reddit's getting a little corrupted. But you got to be careful what you're reading and where you're getting it from. You know, take a dabble. I don't know if anybody does this, but just take a little perusey. It sounds like a last name in Massachusetts. Old perusey. Just take a little perusing down at the bottom or the top, wherever they highlight the... Yeah, there is a helicopter. There's a helicopter right overhead. You can't tell what kind of helicopter, but something's going on. Take a quick peruser of the article author. And if the article sounds a little biased, fishy, suspect, look up that author. They usually have their Twitter or social handles on there, and just dig a little deeper. But this time we got a little bit of reliable information. We're coming from NPR with this article about how 23andMe, and I had to look this up, the co-founder and CEO is Anne Wojcicki, who is Susan Wojcicki's sister. Susan recently passed away, but she was infamously known as the CEO of YouTube, the one who, if the guidelines are unclear, you can thank her and all her friends. And still not much work being done on that. But there's 3 sisters, and 2 of them are like CEOs and multi-billionaires. I don't know. They gotta be. That's a very Boston scene. Dude just rode by in a pink beach cruiser with a Boston sweatshirt and joggers on. Gotta love this city. They're starting to clone people. Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, this is what... Listen, I have notoriously, since back to, I don't even know, 2000 and something, 2008, 7. When I don't know when this started, but even in my radio career and beyond, I've been against spitting in a tube and paying a company. Remember, people paid companies like $100 to have their DNA analyzed. My issue wasn't that. Like, I think that's cool. My family's done it, and I've accessed their information. But I worry about what happens after, or in the situation we're right now. We're not, I shouldn't say we as a collective, because again, I didn't spit in a tube and pay 23andMe $100 to analyze my DNA genetics and then retain it for who knows what. I don't trust these companies. And I think there's a couple issues here. Well, there's many issues way beyond my understanding of genetics. But the obvious, yeah. Can they clone us? Is that even legal? Are there laws against that? I don't know. I remember the sheep cloning in the late 90s. And that was a big hubbub. But there's like genetically made meat. They have the technology, okay? They got the technology. And like Jurassic Park always says, life will find a way. So they could do it. But here and now, 23andMe and Wojcicki, the Wojcicki sisters, the infamous CEOs, her company is plummeting. The stock has lost like 99% of its value. It's worth pennies. And who could have seen that? A company where you spit in a tube once, get all the information you need from that company once, and they don't pivot, change, try to adapt, try to, I don't know, see anything into the future past a one-time use. Unless having that DNA was their future plan, unless that was their ace up their sleeve. But I mean, this company was obviously like, okay, so everybody's tested their DNA. There's no new market. You got to wait 18 years for the next group of people to want to test their DNA, even if their parents already did. So, I mean, it just seemed very short-sighted. But this, I think it's Anne. Yeah. Anne, whatever. It's one of the Wojcicki sisters. She refuses to like quit on this idea. And the whole board quit on her the other day. I talked about that in the news. That was in the goddamn help cloning me. I wouldn't choose my genes if I were dumb enough to send my DNA. It's not about, see, this is the thing. It's all fun and jokes until they got a clone of you and you're like, wait a minute. And my other fear is, let's be honest, if you've never seen Multiplicity with Michael Keaton, watch that, because the second, third clone ain't coming out as good as the first, all right? As good as the OG, all right? You are you for a reason. And this is getting dicey, man. We're talking about a weird future, okay, folks? Like, I know it sounds funny because we're talking clones and genetics and all that, but this is terrifying. Okay, we can do this. Corporations should not have this much power. There should be more rules and laws in place, and apparently there aren't when it comes to genetics testing and stuff like that, because why? This is like a new thing. I guess California and Florida do have some kind of laws to protect consumers against what potentially could happen. But Anne Wojcicki, the CEO and co-founder of 23andMe, when the board quit on her last week or the week before, she's like, nah, we're going on till the wheels fall off, literally. But the thing is the company's worth nothing. She's, I don't know, in charge of a lot of DNA from, I'm guessing, millions of people. I don't know. Multiplicity is a great movie. And you're definitely as old as I am if you remember that movie. I think I've seen that in the theaters. And this lady who is going to have to fire sale, like, this company's under. There's no like coming back. She can't reposition it. There's no rebirth. In fact, the scary thing is that there's like pharmaceutical companies that they have collabed with, weirdest collab ever, or that have invested in them, that obviously if they've invested in them, then they own some of that. And these pharmaceutical companies are saying like, hey, we can take that genetics and the DNA and try to have breakthrough technology, which when you're doing the little check mark or you're signing your name to the small print, this is the shit you got to watch out for, because what 23andMe has said is like, yeah, if they've sent in their spit, they've authorized us to allow, you know, whatever in certain cases. And again, these are all in the articles. I got 3 articles down below. The Business Insider article is how to opt out of some of these companies using your genetics and DNA for this stuff. But I also think that's weird if these huge genetic companies, like, think about this. You paid 23andMe, if you did this, you paid 23andMe $100 to essentially analyze your genetics and give you that background. But then they stored the genetics. So now they're in a situation where they need to pawn off your DNA just to salvage some money or make the Wojcicki sisters a little bit wealthier. They don't need the money. And if they end up pawning this genetic material to another, I don't know, some pharmaceutical, I don't know who. Like, that's the other thing. Can they give it to the police? We've seen police use these DNA genetic sites to catch killers, and how reliable is that tech? Number one, I know the police have billions of dollars, but this is just getting into a sticky, weird, dystopian Judge Dredd style future. But then they're going to hold your genetics, which they already made money off of you. You paid them to have it. And then they could potentially resell that data, that DNA data, to somebody else and make money on you again. This is all weird, and it just doesn't seem right. It just, I mean, like, I think, and again, maybe I'm crazy and some lawyer or someone could explain how wrong I am, but I think if people paid for one thing, it doesn't matter what they checked off. Like, these companies, that's the other issue about like checking off, like you agree to the terms and services. Like, you can't do anything without agreeing to the terms and services. And what if there are certain sticking points that you want to be like, no, that shouldn't be included in this? Like we saw with the Disney Plus guy who did a trial, and his wife, had an allergic reaction and died at one of their resorts. And they literally went to the court and was like, he agreed to our terms and services with the Disney Plus subscription trial. So we need to settle this in arbitration. Like, corporations will do nothing there's no morality. There's no ethics. They'll do everything they can to protect their bottom line, their money. They're not people. They don't give a shit about anything. They just want money. So they'll do anything they can to protect their assets and money. Protect their ass. It is really accurate compared to, us not having this stuff. So again, that'd be a funny company to start. This is how they pivot. They go, you know what? We don't believe that they're that accurate. We're the true accurate ones. And then you get the genetics and you just give them a little bit of different thing. That would be a funny. They waived it to be fair, but no less horrendous. Yeah, I understand they waived it to be fair, but there's no recourse. That's my point. It's like, you have to agree to the terms and services to use their product, and there's no like opt in and out of certain things, or like you disagree with this. Is there some kind of? It just seems it's just weird, in the land of the free, that you just really have no option if you're going to do this, and especially the fact that you're paying 23andMe to analyze your genetic genealogy. But because you opted in, and then they're going to do whatever they want to do. But and this is where it's like, how far does that opt-in stretch? Like, does it stretch to them making more money and scientific breakthroughs? Like, imagine if they already probably got a cure for cancer, but imagine if they cured cancer with this information. And I know they say once they give it to a pharmaceutical company, it's all anonymous. That's in the NPR article down below. You can't sue us for what happened at our theme park. Yeah. And the dude's wife died. But I think that I haven't followed up with that, but a lot of what I heard with like Legal and people on YouTube is like, that's going to get tossed out. Like, they can't stretch that far, but they try to. That's my point. These corporations try to. But it's just, I don't know, man. This is a demented future. Because think about if they had some amazing, miraculous cure breakthrough, even though it's anonymous, and it was your genetics that did it. Like, I know what's his name, Salk, who did the polio vaccine, or one of those guys, he was like, I want no patent on it. But I'm sure somebody, if their genetics were like the link to the fountain of youth, they would want some recognition or something. In favor of the guy. Yeah, I think so. No, it wasn't. It was the dude's wife with the Disney Plus trial subscription. The dude had gotten the free trial. He wasn't even a subscriber. He just opted in for the free trial. But either way, that's the reach corporations will go. They'll go like, hey, you once had a free trial of our streaming service, so you can't sue us if you pay to come to our park, which is all weird in itself, because like, you're paying them to access these things, and they're trying to strip you of your rights because you paid them to go to something. Like, it just seems to it breaks my brain. That's what it does. But when you think about the long-term effects of this, right? Because we can't consider like here and now and what this means that 23andMe is going under, and that there might be doing, no, I don't want to call it a fire sale, pawning. They're stripping the copper out of the buildings. But in this case, the copper is your DNA. and they could be selling it for nefarious reasons. Like if the FBI, say the FBI just wants to have everyone's genetics, and the FBI says, statute 1269-420, funny Elon Musk joke right there. But they said, hey, we need all that genetics for whatever. Like, there's got to be constitutional violations and stuff like that. But truly, like in a data breach, or if them pawning it to another company who doesn't take, it's like selling your debt to another company who has just no regards for life, and they'll call you at all hours of the day, every day. Like, the company that buys it is not obligated to the same standards as the company that you paid to utilize it for the genetic genealogy. And this is, again, from like 10, 15 years ago. My mother-in-law even sent me one of those things, not for 23andMe, as a gift. I didn't do it. I feel bad, but I was like, yo, that's crap. I'm not letting you pay a corporation to have my genetics. It's just not happening. Not in my lifetime. Go fuck yourselves. Not to her, but to the companies. Like, never in my life would I pay a company to take and analyze my genetics. Okay? Ain't happening. So, I mean, I've been offered it, and I said, hell no. Because, again, I didn't know this would happen with 23andMe. You think they're cloning people? I don't know, Wonder. But my point in all of this is, it's not about what they're doing right now. It's about that they're holding these genetics. They're holding our DNA. And 23andMe is going under. Like, lost 90, it's worth pennies. It used to be a $6 billion valuated company. Now the stock is worth pennies. It's lost 90-something% of its wealth or its value. So this company is going under. It is going to, at some point, pawn the genetics it has, the DNA samples it has. That company is now in charge of the genetics, which is not ethically, morally, legally liable by the regulations that the first company had. That company could do whatever with it. You know what I mean? And what if the state gets that, or the feds gets that, and they just want to run and say you got similar genetics. Again, I don't know how the genetics work. This is where I'd love to talk to somebody who knows about genetics, because what if the similar genetics could be like a facial ID mix-up, or maybe they're so unique it's like a fingerprint scan. The thing that scares me, though, is the stories when they caught that serial killer that they caught through the genetics. He had never used it. It was somebody in his family, or not his family, but somebody he was related to had used the genetic genealogy testing thing. And through that, law enforcement caught him. So, like, this is like 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon style shit, where they're like, somebody that kind of has your genetics used it so we can identify you, which is insane to think. I'm glad the dude's caught, but I'm just saying it's insane to think. And what kind of mistakes, we don't have safety protocols, law. We don't have anything surrounding this to kind of regulate it. So it really is a wild ass time and a dystopian nightmare fueled reality we could be living in, again, not right now, but imagine if Elon bought, thank you. That's my fucking point. If Elon tomorrow said, you guys used to be valued at 6 billion. I have 200 billion. I could throw 6 billion at that. And the proof is he can. He bought Twitter for what? 44 billion, or I don't know. And he got a lot of people to lend him money, including P. Diddy, Elon suspect. And that's in the paperwork. You can look that up. P. Diddy, I forget what Diddy Entertainment or whatever it was called, gave him money to help buy Twitter. But if somebody that wealthy wants to leverage some of his assets and burn it into the ground just to have people's genetics and fuck with people, this is what I'm talking about. Thank you, Bandito. And that dude just wants to have it. And then he says, you know what? Everybody that's registered as a Democrat, I'm going to give your stuff to the FBI. And let's just run that through the city. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about. It's not always a good thing that our system runs on the highest bidder. And that's it. There's really no safeguards besides, like, the highest bidder gets it. So thank you. And that's like an immediate horrifying situation. If Elon Musk got a fucking wild hair up his ass and decided to buy 23andMe and own everybody's genetics that was there. Like, who knows what that dude would do? That guy wants to do neuroplant. He's killed how many monkeys, trying to implant chips in their head? What if he's like, I need to clone some people to see if this works? And the ethical boundaries around that, which obviously he has none if you could kill that many monkeys in this day and age. Like, come on. Monkeys are amazing. Amazing. They're so cool. Oh yeah, my brother and I talked about that, and he said, Peter's situation covered us, distract us. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if the P. Diddy situation's a cover-up. I would definitely say with something this big hits, you got to watch all angles. But what P. Diddy has done is gnarly. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, Tupac hated that dude back in 1995. You know, there have been people really hating P. Diddy for how weird he is way before this stuff broke. Speaking the future, and I'm coming back to this video when Elon buys the company. Wonder, please don't say that. You're gonna, I could have an anxiety attack. I could fucking lose my mind. Whew. Okay. We gotta focus because everything's okay right now, guys. Everything's okay for the time being. We're fucked. Because I was saying, like, listen, that's a horrifying reality that could happen now. Elon Musk buying that. I'm thinking like the technology, you gotta remember, so this genealogy thing is so new. I know there's a lot of people growing up now that it was just in the culture. It was in all the commercials. People were doing it. But like 15 years ago, I want to say, again, I'm old, so maybe shorter or longer, that was like unheard of, you know, like you couldn't do that shit. Like just looking up ancestry to like find documents through your local library that were uploaded to online was like breaking, you know, like this stuff is so new. And with AI, with machine learning, with all the technology that we have on the forefront, you know, and this is where like the crossover really starts to scare me. And again, I'm not smart enough to break this down, but it worries me that more people aren't talking about this, because for a company, a $6 billion company being on the verge of collapse, the entire board, Anne Wojcicki's entire board, the whole board just walked out on her, just quit. They were like, so she was doing something so messed up that they were like, we want nothing to do with this shit. And my gut's saying like, yo, this broad's gonna pawn off everybody's genetics, and if it doesn't get to the right hands and isn't safe, there's no ethics and morals in corporations and business. It's about profit, and that's it. That's the bottom line. The song, oh, I like going down the rabbit hole. I just can't do it right now because, man, this is already overload enough. But that's interesting. The song Baby has something to do with it. Wonder. I learned so much on your channel that the normal news doesn't. Well, that's why I wonder. I call this newsmentary, because it's news commentary. Because listen, this is what I do, or this is what I loved about radio, that radio won't really dive into anymore. Radio has become so fucking generic. But these are the conversations in your towns that Ryan Seacrest won't have because he just wants to play the next top 40 hit, then ask fucking Selena Gomez, you know, what her hair, where she got her hair did for the fucking Grammys or whatever. I don't know. But my point is that like, this is the news commentary, and that's why I like you guys commenting, and like Bandito making me hyperventilate when he's talking about Elon Musk buying 23andMe, which, Jesus, we should not even put that into the universe. But, you know, this is the stuff that you got to consider when I read these Business Insider, these NPR articles. It's like they're not even diving into it. Like, what are the ramifications of this in 10 years if it gets into the wrong hands, or if it gets into hands that has no qualms about selling it to the government, selling it to Elon to clone people for Neuralink? You know, like, these are just all hypotheticals, but they are all terrifying hypotheticals. And again, when people laughed at me, people thought I was nuts. They would be like, oh, here goes Rob again. When we bring up the genealogy stuff, the genetics stuff. And I would be like, you guys are tapped. You think I'm letting a corporation own my stuff? You are tapped. And they would all give me a hard time. And you know what? We're here. We're at the day where Anne Wojcicki's company needs to pawn off your DNA just so she can, I don't know, keep paying rent on her, or her mortgage on her 20,000 square foot home. I just feel so smart when I use her information to explain things to my friends. That's rad to hear, Wonder. But take what I do and add to it. Go read more about this, you know? That's sometimes I do lives and then I keep reading throughout the day and I'm like, shit, why didn't I bring that up? Like yesterday I was talking about Costco and how they wouldn't let me in because my membership was my wife's, which she's on her family's membership. And so that really got me thinking. I started looking up, and it turns out Costco makes 73% of their profits from memberships. and they made $6.2 billion net. So that's after they paid all everything. They made $6 billion after they paid expenses. Net profits was $6 billion. And out of that, 4.76 billion of the profits came from memberships. So if you can, and you got somebody that can take you to Costco, go do that, because they like to make their money off memberships. And if you can, you know, just a suggestion, hypothetically speaking, let's say. But yeah, man, keep reading about this, and I still will. This is a follow-up. I was talking about 23andMe when the board walked out on Ann Wojcicki. I thought, because you don't hear about that. You don't hear about a board. Remember, a board of people are getting paid fat 6-figure salaries. So for them to all quit, that's alarm bells in my head. People don't walk away from that much money for no reason. Have to pay to get in and then pay for the food. That's what I mean, man. We got weird systems, but wonder, the best thing to do, read what Bandito said. The Dick Sword? Join the Dick Sword. I don't get that. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Now I feel dumb. But the best thing to do is question everything. Question. Like when my kids, when they're young, they're like, why do we have to go to school 5 days a week? Why is the weekend only Saturday, Sunday? I'm like, I don't know. It shouldn't be. And you know what? 100 years ago, there was no weekend. It was like you had the Sabbath, but you were still working your ass off 7 days a week if you were working class. And now I think weekdays should be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. With our productivity, Friday through Monday should be the weekend. And why isn't that happening? 3-day work week should be a thing. Discord. Oh, okay. I get it. Punny. Do you believe Joe Rogan, how he feels we live in the Matrix? I don't believe anything Joe Rogan says. Joe Rogan's a fucking maroon. He's from Natick, beautiful Massachusetts. Joe is an interesting knuckle dragger. Let me say that. He pretends like he's dumb, but he really is kind of a bully who wants you to believe everything he says. Just challenge him on anything. Joe Rogan is the Matrix, but I do believe we live in somewhat of a Matrix style. That's why thoughts are very important, things like that. Listen, guys, I got to wrap it up. I got to run into the store real quick, but this is concerning to say the least. Thank you, Bandito, for bringing up and try it. You know what? Try that. If you don't believe we live in the Matrix or a simulation or some kind of manifestation of reality, try it. Think about something a lot and see if it comes to you. Test it. I have. But test it. I challenge you to wonder, and then you and then you report back. Think of something. There's fascinating things you could do with that to see, you know. All right, guys, have a great day. I love you all. Thank you all for joining me, and keep a keen eye out for your clones. And that's the other thing. Imagine if they cloned people. You wouldn't even have access to your own clone. A corporation. How sad would you feel seeing your clone having to do whatever, being tested by Neuralink? Ugh. All right. Yeah, and please join the Discord. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. Thank you guys so much. Peace.